TV, where we inspire and inform you endlessly, with knowledge to guide, uplift and grow. Thank you for joining, it's a journey, let's go. To all the new subscribers, welcome aboard. We're so glad you're here, there's so much in store. Returning friends, thank you once again. Together we'll learn and share the game. From wisdom to insight, each video's a gift, helping you rise, giving your spirit a lift. So hit that subscribe, stay tuned to see all the great things on Dr. Bummy Able TV. To all the new subscribers, welcome aboard. We're so glad you're here, there's so much in store. Returning friends, thank you once again. Together we'll learn and share the game. To all the new subscribers, welcome aboard. We're so glad you're here, there's so much in store. Returning friends, thank you once again. Together we'll learn and share the game. Dr. Bummy Able TV here for you. Inspire, educate, inform. That's what we do. Thanks for being part of this growing family. Let's keep shining together in unity.
Hello, everyone. You are welcome here. We have two guests here with us today. Thank you for joining in, everyone. You are welcome. I know you've been waiting for us to start. Like you know, my name is Mabel. We're diving into a very important topic today for every Japa parent. This is what all parents need to know. That is the UK education system. From nursery to university, we're breaking it all down so you can confidently support your child's journey in the UK, whether you're new to the system or maybe you just want to make more informed decision about your child's schooling. The session is packed with practical insights, expert advice, real life experiences, empowering parents and children. So please stay tuned, invite somebody. Somebody needs to hear this. And remember, you can always watch again online. Thank you very much to our guests they are experts at what they do. We've got it's head teacher here. So if you have a head teacher here, then there's nothing else you need. We also have our sister here, Helen. Could you please introduce yourself, Miss Helen? And then Mrs. McCarthy will introduce herself.
My name is Dr. Ellen Famudimu. I've got a PhD in engineering. I taught briefly at a college a few years ago, but I'm actually back into the industry, but I still keep up to date with the regulations on academic qualifications because I've got a keen interest in it. So I know a few of the tricks and I know a few of the everything. But like I said, I'm an engineer by profession.
Wow, thank you. Do you know I didn't recognize it was you? I was like, oh, we have a new guest here, so welcome. Until you mentioned, I said, oh, is it you?
It is me. Everybody else knows me as Toyosi Olowofela. Everybody knows me as Toyosi Olowofela back in Fejikola. But yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. McCarthy, please over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bola McCarthy. I am an educator by profession. I've always wanted to be a teacher, believe it or not. I have spent over 2 decades, probably about 25 years now, in education. So I started off as an English teacher. I became head of English. Then I went in to do special educational needs. I'm part of the British Psychological Society because I can diagnose, access arrangement for students and adults likewise as well. I'm an experienced exam marker, although you're not meant to be saying. So I mark anything from primary school all the way to A-level. And in addition to that, I'm not a head teacher, by the way. I'm a deputy head teacher.
Oh,
and I chose, how it is when you're raising children. I don't want my own children to suffer, so I wanted to be there for them as well. So I just said, I think this is it for me. And because I'm actually quite busy with other things as well, I do parental organizations. I do things called Supplication for Success, where I bring examiners together and share insights for parents and children. I also lead this team called the HDIK team, and it's called How Do I Know? And I have these educational videos that I make sure, whether it's safeguarding or send, just to make sure that parents are educated and empowered.
Mm.
Because when you release your children, as Dr. Bumir Bell said, into that society, into the world of education, there are things that go on that you may not be aware of. And so that is just to equip parents. And so that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry. Well, maybe we're prophesying head teacher soon.
No, I know.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I know these are very busy people, I tell you. From even the profile alone, you can see they're very busy. So we wouldn't take too much of their time. And please, if you're asking questions, straight to the point, type in the chat and let us deal with this. So the first sector of education we're going to be talking about is, and well, before I say that, thanks to Maria Williams. Thank you for joining in today. Thank you for joining in. Please remember to invite others and let us all learn together. So we are talking about the nursery early ages, ages early years, ages 0 to 5. What is the difference between daycare, nursery, and preschool in the UK, and how do I choose the right one? So, if you could please, for those who are joining the education system for the first time, for the first generation students or pupils or in the UK of parents who have jackpot with their children, they don't know anything about nursery or early years. Could you please explain to them and then you could answer that question? What is the difference between daycare, nursery, preschool in the UK?
Are you going first?
Go first, because I think, although I
Yeah.
know the difference, but I think that's more your
All
niche.
right. So what it is to begin with, education is compulsory from 5 to 16. You understand? So if you have your child and they're not registered in a school formally, or one way or the other anyway, the council would know, or immigration know that there's a child who's arrived, and if they're not in school, you would have social services knocking on your door if that child is 5. Now, if they're below 5, it's no one's business up until the year they turn 5. So a school year is done from 1st of September to 31st of August the following year. So that's it. Now, some parents, because of work commitments, will want to put their child in a nursery. Some of them will put their child with a childminder. Because there was a time that a lot of abuse was going on, childminders are also registered with Ofsted. So that means they get inspected. They also want to know. So I could be a white childminder, but they don't want me to impose and enforce my culture on that child as well. So when
Mm,
Ofsted come in, they want to see what sort of things do they play with? What sort of films am I showing them? Is it all Rosie and Jim? Or have I got something about Adamu and whatever? What sort of dolls do I have in the house? So some
mm,
people prefer that as well, that you have somebody looking after your child, in the comfort of their home. They're quite expensive as well. So sometimes some people will time it and do it from hours. Some people do it unofficial. I think if you are to leave your child with a childminder, the child has to be over 8. You understand, or somebody who's not registered. But any child under 8, they have to be a registered provider. So as you're looking for nursery, you're also looking for childminders as well. So they will come and they would have an Ofsted rating. So that's number one. Now, secondly, some nurseries will take any child from ideally, and we know, thank God that most of us here are ladies. I'm not being sexist, there's maternity leave for a reason. So
mm,
I wouldn't really advise anybody to take their child to either a childminder or nursery when they're 0 months, 2, 3 months. You understand? You need that bonding time. So again, the next thing that you need to think about, okay, if they're not going to a childminder, then they could go to preschool. So again, those preschools sometimes they just from 9 to 3. And it depends from council to council as well, because some boroughs they do it in such a way that they look at the need. The levels of unemployment might be high. And so, therefore, what they might do is, fund maybe some nursery places. Some churches even have some of those nursery places, like the Baptist Church. But some schools as well, because they notice a fall in role, they want to get those kids early. So from age 3, 2.5 to 3, they can become part of the nursery. And
mm,
because of the workforce and population now, and the government is encouraging people to go back to work, what you would also see is that some places are funded, but you would have to approach that nursery directly. So I think 15 hours to begin with, and how you do those hours as well is up to you. So you can get some of that funding. and then also then you can top it up. But nurseries are actually quite expensive. So some people pay over a grand a month. That's even like a mortgage. So again, it's going to those nurseries and looking at what works for your child. Just a note of caution that I would say, and that's something that I did. Before you send your child to a nursery, sometimes it's better to make sure that they're talking, so that if anything happens, they can come and articulate that to you, and
Mm.
there's no cover up, you understand? So that's just something to be mindful about. Okay. And then
Thank
obviously by 4, if you want, you can actually take them now to go and start reception, okay, or early years, because some of them have nurseries in school. Okay, it's just that sometimes those nurseries, the time is maybe different. You might have to start at 9 and pick the child up at 12. Where does that leave you where work commitments are concerned? So that's why some people prefer the full time. Okay, over to you.
Oh, thank you very much for that explanation. Do you have anything to add to it? Or our viewers, or do you have anything to add to it?
I've got a few things to add to it actually. For one, I'm sorry to say, now compulsory education is up until 18.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to be in education or in apprenticeship up
Mm,
until 18. From 18, and then they're free. And I think a little bit of more clarification, especially for people who have just jackpot.
Mm,
Childminders are usually registered with the local council, and they tend to be a bit more flexible within the hours. Most nurseries would have a set time for start, a set time for stop, and most of them tend to take kids from 3 months up until 4 years, which is when formal education for where that's when formal education starts, when they go into reception. um and then and nurseries tend to be the most expensive, talking from a very recent personal experience. Actually, I think most nurseries now, you will be hard pressed not to find a nursery that will be charging below £1,000. Most nurseries are really, really quite expensive.
mm.
I mean, my little one, 3 years ago, we were paying 1,002 per month. So talking from personal. So when he was 3, because the nurseries that we wanted him to go wouldn't take anyone below 3. Sorry, the preschool that we wanted them to go wouldn't take anyone below 3. So when he then became 3, we then pulled him out of nursery to go into a preschool. Now, preschools are usually, in most cases, affiliated with the primary schools, and they tend to be cheaper. The disadvantage of that is they only do school time, and in
mm,
some cases, they only do a certain slot. So, some preschools you would do you right, because okay, let me wind that back a bit. If you're exceptionally lucky, and I say that lucky in that, if you have a good, um, not social worker, a good community nurse who comes to the house to look after your kids, and they say, right, this child, we want to get the child into education, they might then be able to prescribe, especially if you've got no recourse to public funds, they might be able to prescribe for your kid to go into school once they are 2. So, and that tends to happen, I think, most times when they think the kids might have a slight delay, or they would benefit from interacting with other children within a formal setting. So they tend to encourage parents to get into that. Once your child becomes 3, automatically, even without recourse to public funds, automatically you're eligible for 15 hours, 15 to 30 hours of free education. And within that bracket, schools or preschools and even nurseries, some childminders, not all childminders, mind you, but and some childminders, because this part of it is funded by the government. So not all childminders wants to
mm,
wait 3 months for them to get paid. They want to get paid immediately.
Mm.
Nurseries are a bit more formal because the money goes into an account, and then they disperse it to to their staff, and so also the preschools. So once between two, when you get the 15 hours free at 2 years, but once they become 3, they're eligible for 30 hours free almost automatically. You still
Mm.
have to apply to the nursery or to the school, and they then will determine usually whether or not which hours they are willing to offer you. I know some people would usually do 3 hours each day, Monday to Friday. So that would be 3 hours Monday, 3 hours. So that's 15 hours. Um, and then some would say, right, you're only eligible for, we can only do you 2.5 days. So depending on however they want to do it. But like I said, with preschools, you're bound between the hours. Usually most schools resume 8:15, 8:30. Sorry, between 8:30 and 3:30. That's usually the bracket. Depending on when they resume. Some resume 8:45, some resume 9. Some will say, okay, your child will only do 9 to 12. Others will be 9 to 3. And then you take and bring your child within that period, and then they go within that period.
Mm.
Otherwise, and then what then happens is, if you're a working mom, as I was, you then have to find what we call wraparound care, which is where the childminders also come in.
Yeah.
In that, I've got a situation where a friend at the moment, their child goes to childminder Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday afternoon pickup, goes to preschool, and does Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, Friday at the preschool, because that's where they've got the free funding for. And then so they have to pay the childminder within those days. So it just depends on your circumstances. But like I said, once your child becomes 4, they then enter into what we call the formal education, which is then becomes early years. Preschools are generally between cheaper in the overall, because that's usually subsidized in most cases by the government.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, thank you very much, our guest viewers. If you have any question, please write them, because this is the time you have. They are very busy people, like I told you earlier. And if you need anything, you need to suck up all the information from them at this hour. All right. The next question for the same nursery and early years is, what is early years free entitlement, and how can someone access 15 or 30 hours of the free? I know you've mentioned it, of the free childcare, but just as a way of a summary, how can they access it? Because people are struggling. Some people are struggling. Is it to talk to? So you can tell us, Dr. Famodimu.
Famodimu. Just call me Helen. Everybody calls me Helen.
Okay.
Um, free years entitlement. So once you become, we said the government has said every child has to be in school from year 4, for once they're 4 years old, up until they're 18 years old. That is free. That is covered by the government. One way or the other, until you're 18 years old, you must be in education. Well, some sort of education. The actual years of well education, where is well defined, is between 4 and 16. We'll cover the post high school region later on. And then if you're a bit people tend to get a bit confused, because obviously you see the EYFS, early years foundation stage, and that's usually preschool, childminder, nursery, and then reception, I believe.
Mm.
Then they go to key stage 1, which is usually, is it year 1 and year 2. They go to key stage 2, which is years 3 to 6. Key stage 3 is year 7 to 9, and then key stage 4 is year 10 and 11. I
Yes,
believe,
yes, it is.
yes. And so all of those, we call them free entitlement. But then I'm not quite sure what you want to know a bit more about the early years free entitlement. I know all of that is funded by the government. When they're below, when they're still in key stage 1, they also get everything free, which means they get lunch free. They get virtually everything free. So within that period, you don't have to pay for school lunches.
Yeah.
That's provided by the government.
I think the question is about, when the people are in nursery, they say, oh, you can only have I don't know, maybe 30 hours. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
You can only have certain number of hours. You can't have them in full
Hmm.
9 to 6.
Right.
So
Yes.
those free times, some people would say, oh, but in my nursery they're not allowing me
Free time.
yes, they want me to come on Monday and just Tuesday alone, or so some are 15 hours, some are 30 hours. What difference
Um,
between those?
to tackle unemployment in the UK, the government introduced early 3 hours at 2 years old.
Okay.
Now, for you to be eligible for that, you have to be usually British citizen or on ILR. You also have to be on a certain amount of income per year, and you also have to be um, on a certain type of benefits. Now, when it comes to who is entitled, I can't say yes, there is that's those are like the basic yardstick. However, we do know that, like I said earlier on, there are some exceptional cases where if you've got a good caseworker as your community nurse who can then advocate for you and give you a code. You basically need a code for you to be eligible. Once your community nurse gives you that code, then you're eligible.
All right.
Alternatively, you have to go to childcare.gov.uk, I believe is the website. And that website, it tells you whether or not it helps you go through a few questions to let you know whether or not you're eligible. Now, you may not be eligible for 15 years because, like I said, 15 years is when you're working. However, at 2 years old, however, they may allow you to create an account where you can start saving some money for when the child enters into those early years entitlement. Basically, it takes that money from your account pre-tax, so you're not paying tax on that. So basically, that helps you with savings a bit more.
Okay.
And the government also tops that up a bit. You have to be careful though that if you're not eligible for public funding,
Yes.
that might be considered in some cases as public funding. So just be careful with regards to that.
All right.
Um, Now, once you're three, like I said, all 3 year olds are entitled to, as far as I can remember, 30 years 30 years of free education.
Yeah.
Now, 30 hours. Now, those 30 hours, there isn't a one size fits all. It just depends on whatever establishment that you're taking your kid to. They are the ones that will determine how that 30 hours will work for them.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
some would be 15 hours as well,
10
but then
hours.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
be careful. Yes. Go on.
I was going to say also you could also approach those providers as well and
Hmm.
see whether, because as you know, Dr. Helen said just now, yes, you could have the entitlement, but they may not have the spaces. Like I know of somebody who's gone, she wanted to return to work, but they don't have spaces until September. So it's just factoring all of those in as well, and then
Yes.
looking at what is right for that child too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So please ask the questions from your providers, because some, if you want to get into I don't want to say trap of all this no recourse to public funds and all of these things. Please ask before. Don't just take things at face level. All right. So also parents need to choose um registered services with Ofsted, those who are registered with Ofsted, so you can get the best quality. We go on to the primary one. The primary is age 5 to 11, reception to year 6. And the question is, how do I apply for a primary school place and what is a catchment area?
Okay. So I can answer that. So the catchment area, number one, what happens with the primary school is you have they normally say you apply to the school that is closest to you. You understand? So, and what would happen is the only reason why you would apply for a school that is further away could be because of special educational needs or because it's a faith school. So if it's a faith school, they start. So the Catholics will start. Are you a Catholic? what diocese do you go to? If you're not a Catholic, are you a member of another faith? If you're not a member of that, are you Pentecostal? Which a lot of people, again, and sometimes even the Church of England schools, you may not be a Christian, but if you're a Muslim and you're able to bring something from your imam to say that you're a Muslim and you go to mosque, they would also take that one on. So that is the first thing. Now, again, for children who are age 4, like I said earlier on, they don't necessarily have to go to school at 4, but it's a good idea for them to go. 5 is when it becomes statutory. Now, from age 5, you can start to apply for school places from reception and above. That will be done through the local council. So you would have to go on their website, because it's usually done online, and you would apply, and then you choose, I think, 2 to 3. Okay, so that's what you do. Now, in cases of where you have people, as you said, like Japa, who have come, from abroad, they call them in-year admission. So they don't have the normal transition like everybody else has. So again, you would have to phone the local council, and then again, they would now tell you that that one, they will give you a form, and you could say which schools you think you want to go to. But the danger in some of those ones is that the school closest to your home may actually not have any spaces. You understand? So it means that you might be sent to a school that is further afield. And again, it has to be somebody who's quite savvy, because again, how are you going to manage, with transport and all of that? But one of the things that I normally say to parents is say that the school is not where I would have chosen normally. You've decided to send my child to school in another borough, therefore you have to provide transport. And the local authority should provide transport. They will provide transport. Sometimes it's a school bus that will come and pick the child. It's just that sometimes, again, all sorts of things happen on that bus. No parent, no adult. So but that's the story for another day. So in year admission, you would contact admissions at your local authority wherever you are, and then they would then give you a form. They'll tell you to come in. They will tell the school. They will tell you which schools have vacancies as well. Now, the
Mm,
thing is, like every other profession, some people may be slack, some people are very busy. I know, for instance, as a teacher, with the best will in the world, I want to do something, but Ofsted may come calling, or there's a safeguarding issue that's going to take the whole day. So again, your child may not be their priority. So once the council have told you that, well, there's a place in this school, try and follow it up, because sometimes it may take 6 weeks. The one thing that I will tell you, and that's why I'm saying depend, because if it's recorded or not, is that school have census as well that they do twice a year. You understand? So if you've come early in September and you've been named, you will see they will be phoning, rushing to get you in, because the government pays about, I think, depending on where the school is. So for some, it's 4,000 if it's primary school. I think secondary, and depending again, it's more than that, about 6K. So they'll try and get them in. You understand? So, but I think it's good to look carefully and to look closely as well. Don't just go because they've told you that this is where you need to go to, because
mm,
the school might be outstanding in all areas and all categories, but does that mean that it's meeting the needs of your child? So the first thing I normally say is go on a website called go and what's it called, comparetheschools.co.uk. That is the best thing to do. I will say it for primary parents and for secondary parents, because what it does is it compares school for school. It compares how they're doing in writing, how they're doing in reading, how they're doing in all their exams. So you may not want to send your child that into a school that is failing. You also need to look at the Ofsted rating as well. Inadequate, requires improvement, good, okay, outstanding. And again, you need to think about that as well. That okay, which school would suit my child's need? Yes, it's outstanding, but some schools, and when I get to secondary school, I'll tell you about the outstanding schools, so that you know that is this really where I want to send my child? You understand? Because of some of the things and the gimmicks, like Dr. Helen used the word tricks that are being, used. You understand that it looks outstanding, but not everybody is presented for exams. And you'll be surprised that your child will just be told to do English, maths, and 2 other subjects, and so they're not given that range. So again, it's just making sure you're talking, you're asking questions. Do you know
mm,
people who go to that school? And even people like myself, just talk before you go, and
mm,
people who would be your advocates as well, and help you to understand the system. So that's what I would say for those. And Dr. Helen said earlier on as well, for primary school, you've got the early years, okay, up onto reception. Key stage 1 would be year 1 and 2. They do an exam at the end of that. Is key stage 1 optional test. Schools don't have to do them, but some do. and then you've got years 3 all the way up to 6 as well, which is junior school. So again, any of those is just making sure that you visit as well. And if you're not convinced, go back and visit again as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for answering that question. Are there any is there any addition, or do I go to the next one? I know our time is we're 30
Sure.
minutes into it.
Just a quick one. I would always say try and visit the place as well. Obviously, because it's important that you feel your child will fit into the school. And I know there are a lot of us now, but when we first moved to where we live at the moment, there were just three blacks in my son's school, so we were a bit worried about him fitting in, and whether he'll feel excluded. So some of those would be a bit are some of the important points that you want to look at, and always listen to your kids when they come back from school, to especially when they've just gone to a new school. Case in example, I know someone where the first school that the child went to, they basically profiled the child, um, without considering whatever else might be happening with the family background at that point, and basically labeled the child a troubled child. And it had escalated until I then talked the mother down about the steps that she needed to take. Basically, stand on your rights and approach it in a certain way so that they don't see you as defensive, but also push the onus of responsibility to them, because there are some cases where they don't know how to deal with emotions, and sometimes it escalates. So just, if you're ever in doubt, just look for someone else who has been in the country for a bit longer and talk through the options with them, because believe me, some of us have seen it and we've known it, and in those cases we're able to tell you what you can do to approach it. Would you believe that when that same child went to a different school, it was a totally different case? No issues, no problems whatsoever. So sometimes it's just the school, and the school is just not right, or the teacher is just not right, and you're well within your right to advocate that, look, I want my child moved to another class because the teacher and him or her would clash. So I'll
Hmm.
just leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so sure there are people who are facing this kind of issues and are just stuck there. They don't know what to do. But from your answer, thank you very much for enlightening us. Thank you to people who are online making, writing comments. Thank you, Mrs. Babatunde. Thank you. Amy Mara says you might need to check the number of free school meals that would give you an idea of the social, economic, and population. Yeah, number of school,
Free school,
people
pupil
on
Free school
school,
meals.
premium
free
and
school
all,
meals.
yes, shows it either is a place of deprivation or and all that.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I
yeah,
just wanted to just touch on that, and thank you for that, Amy, for raising that. Again, for somebody who's been in the classroom, sometimes what you see in terms of social mobility and aspirations, because nobody in the work in the household is working, you
mm,
understand. And I remember I actually had 2 year 9 classes at one point, and those ones, even where the parents were working at Tesco's and whatever, I saw their attitude to studies. But the other ones who were just, that level of deprivation, they don't care, when you finish, you're just going to work in the, or not work, or just sit at home and just watch telly and be on benefits. You could see it in their attitude. You set
mm,
homework, it's not done. And what I say, because what then happens, yes, somebody's child is in there, but what you're struggling with is trying to get these kids to come into school. You're dealing with behavior, you're
yeah,
dealing with attitudes.
mm,
And so when your child is there, they can't learn, you understand, because of who they're in class with.
yeah,
So sometimes even when the
distractions.
children are set and put in bottom set, and I used to say to my kids, it's not an issue being in bottom set. I've taught bottom sets and I love teaching them. Do you know why? Because once I've motivated them and I tell
Mm,
them, there's nothing that you can't achieve.
yes.
These kids start to work hard. Behavior is sorted, so they
Mm,
do well. I said, but not everyone is like me. If
mm,
somebody is not firm enough in the classroom, all they're doing is firefighting. And the
mm,
ones who need that little bit of help are not going to get that help. So thank you very
yeah,
much. That's really,
okay.
really, yeah.
Thank you. And she said, check the level of pastoral on offer as
Mm.
well, because Some people, they don't know how to deal with bullies, they don't know how to deal
Yeah.
with so many things. And so reading the Ofsted report would give you a sign of who
Um,
they are as well.
Sorry, one last thing that I've really just remembered, just because I'm pastoral, is if you're going through the September intake, you
Mm,
might also want to check whether they've got breakfast club and after school club, because
Mm.
believe me, sometimes those two would save your life
Yeah.
with regards to
Massively.
childcare, because otherwise you'll be running up and down the whole country trying to get to school
mm.
on
Mm.
time. So just check those as well.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. The second part of primary school one is, what should I know about key stage 1 and 2 assessments, the SATs, and how do they
Mm.
affect my child's progress? Because I've heard people say, oh, they tell them in school, oh no, it's not, it's nothing. It's just, you just do,
Mm.
just it's just a government requirement,
Mm.
and then those children don't study, they don't read, they don't do anything, and parents don't know how to help them, and you get to secondary school, this is how they put them in sets.
Oh yeah.
So the people need to know these things. Please, could you
Yeah.
explain?
So the first thing that I would say, and I always say this to every parent, is that, and I'll come to those assessments, like I said, because I'm, part of the team doing this. The first thing that you have to do, once your child is able to talk and reading, you
Mm,
must make sure you're cultivating a habit of reading, and especially when you're thinking of people who have Japad. Remember, we have our own culture. There's
mm,
a way that we even speak in Nigeria. You say tight friends. And I'm just thinking of so many phrases that we have that are grammatically incorrect. And I'm not saying it to condemn or
yes.
anything, but what it is we're now moving into a new culture here, which the kids have no idea. You're talking about daffodils. That may not be the flowers that they're used to. They're reading text. The contextual knowledge is not there.
Mm,
Having said that as well, the curriculum itself was revamped in 2017. So a lot of it, if for kids to get those top grades,
mm,
it's all about their cultural capital.
yeah.
So if they don't have that to bring to the table, they may be ceiling a little bit. And you're right. With the key stage one, they'll tell you they don't want to, stress the kids so much.
Mm,
So it's not being mentioned. But you know what? Thank God for the internet, and we have access to a lot of knowledge. You need to start doing things with your child. And sometimes you need to think about, is it worth me taking all these extra shifts, or am I able to
mm,
just spend time, with my kids on a Saturday morning? You know how long I've been in teaching,
mm,
and it's not that I don't want to be a head teacher, but I thought, I how would I be a head teacher and my child are not thriving academically, mentally, and physically? So that was the first thing for me. You
yeah.
understand? And when child is in uni, yes, and you're right. So now I can start looking. So, but going back to that now, so make sure that they're reading, because there's a lot. Take them, it's learning through play, so
Yeah.
they understand that. So when you're sending even your 2-year-old or 3-year-old to go and get your shoes, you say get the pink shoes. So you start doing all that in your dialogue. You don't just do it like, I remember I was born here, but when I went to Nigeria, I was so traumatized. I didn't understand anything. All the what's 2 plus 2? I will beat you. You understand? And I'm shaking. But for a child here, you tell them that 2 people got on the bus and
Mm,
2 people leave. You will
mm,
see how quick they will answer that. But sometimes 2 plus 2 is a concept that is far fetched from them.
yeah.
So if you start doing that with them, having dialogue, even when they're watching their baby shows, that's not the time for you to be cooking. And I'm not saying, if you're cooking, let them come in. Can you get me 2 Maggie cubes? So when you do that, then it helps. So
Mm,
that, and then you're doing the practice sats. So when they go in, because the teacher, oh, they're all right, they're okay, they're okay. And the problem is as well, most of our children, and I'll say especially at primary school level, it's only when they get to secondary school level that they're trying to get friends, and that's when they misbehave. Primary school level, they're pretty much mellow, they're pretty much okay, they're not raising their head above the parapet. And if you're not careful, they get forgotten. So
mm,
because they're not causing any issues. So that's why you need to do a lot of reading, a lot of those mathematical problems, so that they can get the best results ever. People ask me, and I'm going to be honest with you as well. And then what some people do, and this is a cautionary tale as well for parents, they'll go and pay their hard-earned money and get tutors. I normally say to people, no. If I never got tutor, I'm not saying my children are the brightest, but I gave them my time.
They don't have
And
any
that is
clothes
one
for
thing that you parents need
you.
to be doing, giving their children their time,
Right.
reading with them, getting them to understand things. So you see those key stage 2 SATs, you're right. If a child does not get 100, and that's the standardized score, it means that they're going to be behind naturally in secondary school.
Mm.
Any child that does any of those standard tests, okay, if they're scoring between 115 and 120, which is the full marks, your child is a gifted child. And sometimes people may not tell you that information.
No.
You understand? So if they're getting below 100, they're not year seven ready at all. They'll be in catch up classes in secondary school. And that's if somebody even bothers to, because like I said, schools are busy. They know that these kids need to be in catch up remedial English, but they may not have the timetable to do it. They may not have the staff to do it. So that child will naturally be behind. So, and then that puts them on the flight path. So it's like a trajectory for them. You understand? And you will use it to predict their grades. But like I said, there are some teachers who would say to those kids that yes, they predicted the grade, but that doesn't define you. And if you can work yourself hard and do X, Y, Z, you will get to where you need to get to. So yes, so it is used to determine their progress in secondary school. So
Yes.
again, it's just making sure that you're doing a lot of practice. Now, the ones you can't do yourself and you don't understand, if you are going to get a lesson teacher or somebody to teach your children, sometimes I even see people paying children in Nigeria, people in Nigeria to teach. They don't understand the curriculum. Sometimes people are getting a graduate. They don't understand the curriculum. And I'll give you one example. I remember my daughter Joanna, she came home and they told them to write verbs with the alphabet. And she did. She was just looking at the dictionary, canoeing, paddling. And
Are
I
you
said,
watching a
Jojo, what does
video?
paddling mean? She didn't know.
Are you watching
And
a
she
video?
wouldn't know, of course. So
Oh,
I tried to explain to her, and she was crying. She didn't understand. I was frustrated. I didn't understand. But I called one of my friends who's a primary school teacher. I said, do you know what? I've been struggling over the weekend because we'll start, we'll stop. And you know what she said? She said, tell her to stand up. I said, what are you doing? I'm standing up. Can you do something else? She was clapping. What else are you doing? I'm clapping. And just with that, she knew what she was doing. She said, oh, I know what to do now. And literally within 10 minutes, she finished that work.
Wow.
So if you realize that your child is struggling, and I'm going to give you some websites that you can use. Seneca Learning is quite good.
Mm.
There's something called Kahoot. There's also, all sorts of things. So what you need to do is you test them. And if you see there's a gap, and you really, you're flush with the cash and you really must, this money, it has to leave your hands,
Mm.
you will call the tutor and you will say, my child is struggling with fractions. Because you'll get a lesson teacher and they say, and I'm so sorry, I'm gonna go a bit rude. I went, oh bad. No, that's not what. Yes, I know that. That's why I called you. Because I know they're bad. I didn't pay you to come and tell me how bad they are. So you tell them, you test them, and in 6 weeks, I need an intervention so that
Mm.
they're okay when it comes to doing, that fractions again. So it's looking at the topics and the concepts that they're struggling with, not just having somebody going over the things they know and telling you that they're bad. So that's how you can work with these children. But we have a role as parents to play. And I say to you, reading is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Sam learning is another tool that you can use because it marks it. So you can see where the gaps are and you could try and teach them yourself, or you can reach out to different people, and they can, like teachers and whatever, and look, I'm always available. And I always say that even if I can't help, I have got a vast network of people that can support and help.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much. We've got comments here on the chat as well from Immigrant Maro says, I wish there were more teachers like you who see an individual rather than a system in place, ticking box in place of ticking boxes exercises. Love your passion for bringing the best out of a child. Thank you for that. Mrs. Owatande says, thank God for Christian teachers who really care for the children. Thank you. All right, we go on to we've
um,
talked about the primary. Is there any addition?
just a quick,
Okay.
I'll be very, very brief. I know we're short on time. Just so you know, year one, year two is when they do key stage one SATs, and usually it's just English and maths. One thing you have to be careful with the English, a lot of the words are not your standard words. What they're looking at is how their brain picks up on phonics. So you have to learn phonics as a parent. You have to really learn phonics as a parent. Right. Year six, they do English, maths, and I think science. But then one thing that you can do with year six, start preparing them for year six SATs, end of year four, but definitely year five. Exam Ninja is your go-to website. There's options to pay, but rather than pay for Exam Ninjas, they also have free exam tests. Try those. Just get your kids trying some of the free online resources for year stage two SATs. I was going to say, I've just seen the question that someone is struggling with year seven math. Twinkle is really good as well. Sam Learning, there is another one. Which one? Dr. Frost Maths. Dr. Frost Maths is your friend.
Technical learning.
Dr. Frost Maths. Go through those and you will be you would because Dr. Frost actually breaks down the steps in those learning. So those may be what you want to go through.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. McCarthy says Twinkle, Sam Learning, Seneca Learning. All right, thank you very much. Someone says thank you, Ma. Very informative. My daughter is struggling in year seven maths. Okay, we'll go to secondary school now. We're still in primary sector. Thank you, Pastor Bola. You are right. Reading daily is very important. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we go on to the secondary schools. That is now we're getting like we're climbing a mountain. Now this is the real thing. Secondary school, age 11 to 16, year 7 to year 11. How do I support my child through the GCSE process and which subjects are compulsory? So, do you want to give an overview of what secondary school is and
Yeah.
go on to yes,
So and yeah, so before I also start from the year 7 to 11, there is something that I want to advise any Japa parent that is listening. A lot of parents have come here with their children, especially the older ones, and they've struggled. They've
Mm,
struggled because it's too late, kind of. If they're 15, I would say let them finish their secondary school education. Because what it is, we live in a culture where words are very important, where
yes.
they're very civil, very polite. I have seen people who have been taken to the pupil referral units, the PRU. But you see, it sounds very good. Don't worry, there's just going to be a small number of students there. And the pupil referral unit is for kids who actually have been excluded and no school wants them. And then they'll just get them to do English and maths. Sometimes they'll be told that they need to go to college. So I'm saying, and I know this is hard, that if you can just wait for them to finish, unless, again, you have passionate teachers who would say, and it would work for kids who are born later in summer, May, June, or July, because you can ask for them to be taken back a year. You will get permission from the director of education. But there are so many things. And I used to do that at my old school. I'll say, oh, look, they look tiny. They look like they're in year 10. You understand? And things like that. But if somebody is very hefty and they're already looking like a man, there's a chance that, they'll just send them off to college. So just something that you need to think about and discuss really with your child before you bring them. And then they just regret that they're coming here. Now, let's go to secondary school. So there are different access routes to secondary school. And I forgot to mention for primary school as well. you know they have private education. Some of them do scholarships. Okay, some of them, if you can, again, there's also something where I think there's about 9 schools in the country where you pay for boarding, but the education itself is free. I know there's one in Bishop Stortford, so a lot of Nigerians go to that as well. But again, you have to think about, is that good for your child? You know, I wasn't a boarding school candidate. I suffered for the whole year that I was there. And it was the best thing my parents did, taking me out of there. Anyway, so going back, so when they start in year 7, remember they're coming with the primary school record. So this is what we do: we go and visit the primary school and you talk to the primary school teacher to get a big picture. And it's not just about the child. So they'll talk about the child. Is the child got siblings? Oh, we always see the mom, because those primary school teachers are the ones who are always standing at the gate. Oh, we never see dad, but I think there's a dad in the picture. So everything about yourself and your family that you don't know, they know. And they will tell the secretary. So can you
Mm.
imagine? So in a way, we've kind of got a preconceived idea of who's coming and what their parents are like. These sometimes I say these primary school teachers are a bit cruel, because I remember one teacher said to me once, she had one word: psycho. That's what she calls one child. You understand? Anyway, then all the records come. Do you come to parents' evening? Do you not come to parents' evening? And you've got all of that. So that is used to create, and somebody mentioned the pastoral plan. So there will be a plan. Then sometimes the teacher would even tell us, is there anyone else from this school who's coming? They will say yes. So they will say, please don't put Dr. Bumi Abel and Dr. Helen together. If you can get them separate, that you don't want them in the same class. So all of that will be done for when they come in. You understand? Now, obviously, if your child is going to a grammar school, if you live in Kent, then they do the 11 plus exams, okay, or wherever you live as well, where there are those grammar schools and selective schools, they would have to do 11 plus exams. The one thing I do say to parents, just like I said with the Key Stage 1, which you also kind of conceded on, Dr. Helen, is that, do I really need to be paying for my child to be doing? You understand? Think about their ability and don't put that. I've seen parents pay thousands and they didn't get in. You understand? So, and I'll tell you something that you need to be doing as parents as well. That it could be that the child has some little issues and not bad issues, but I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, so that's that. So now the child is in secondary school. In year 7, they do something called CATS test. So the CATS test is similar to some of the things that they do in the 11 plus exam, and it looks at verbal reasoning, and it looks at it looks at verbal reasoning, it looks at non-verbal. I think there's quantitative, there's about 4 batteries. And again, because obviously um, these tests are standardized. So what happens is, again, if anybody scores over 115, it means that that child is gifted. Now, some of them might score 115 and above in all batteries. That means you've got a very gifted child. So these are things that you need to be asking, because sometimes that data is there in the hands of people, and you're not, you don't know. So you need to say, excuse me, I need to know, did my child do CATS test? So you so what does this mean? So you know whether you've got an Einstein on your hands, or you've got a child who you need to support a bit further. So that's the one thing. Then there's something called the reading test. I think if you actually look at Hertfordshire reading test as well, or that's a quick online one, but it only goes up to 12. So again, schools do reading tests for kids. Now, ideally, your child should be reading at their chronological age. Okay. So if they're 11, you expect them to be reading at 11 years, 6 months, or 11 years, 1 month, or whatever. But some children are 11 and they've got a reading age of a 17-year-old. Some children are 11 and they've got a reading age of a 16-year-old. And that means that they can access anything. And it means that their literacy skills are buoyant. So again, you make sure that you capitalize on that, from all levels, from year 7 all the way through. So that's the one thing that I would say. And you now need to be going to the school, and you need to be talking to the teachers and saying, my child is this. This is what my child, I want to know what you're doing. Make sure you're never far from the gates of the school. Make sure you're in communication. Make sure you're going to parents' evening, so your child is not left out. You
Yes.
understand? So that also your child can get the right support. Now, just quickly as well, sometimes some children may struggle a little bit. And what we do as parents is that we're barking at them. Oh, what's wrong with you? Whatever. Somebody said their child is struggling with maths. Could it be that they've got dyscalculia? Or a child that's struggling with reading? Could it be that they've got dyslexia or mild traits of it? And Nigerians were very religious. Sometimes we'll say, in Jesus' name, that's not my portion. You understand? Could they be? And those are the things that I say I diagnose, because and could it be that, and it was because of the interest, that's why I went to do it. Or some of them have slow speed of processing.
Yeah.
You understand? So, then they'll tell you, I didn't finish. But it's not because, and these kids are actually bright. It's because they're there thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and then time has gone. You understand? In the private schools, everybody there has access arrangement, from extra time to noise cancellation to working in a room. No wonder they're ruling us. You understand? So what you don't want is that at any that's it. Yeah, you're divergent. Yeah. So at any point in time that your child is unfairly disadvantaged, because when you do those tests, the tests that they do, or it's not to say, oh, there is something. It's to investigate why they are not making progress. You understand? So
Yeah.
the findings might come back that, you know what, there's nothing, but maybe if the teacher can, and you give the teacher some notes so that they can adapt the teaching for that child. So sometimes bad teaching as well. So you need to make sure that you're looking, and where you're worried, there might have been 10 other teachers that have complained. if one person complains, action will not be taken, or it might be. But when you got 8 others, because can
Mhm.
I tell you as well, it's not easy being a teacher because we're judged on. Remember, I told you the child comes with the results from primary school, and then they end up getting a grade 6. My salary is not going to go up. You understand?
Yeah.
Neither is the salary of the head of department because that child has not progressed. So,
Mm.
but if you're not talking and you're happy with the grades that your child is getting, then that's the story for another day. All right.
And schools have a way of saying, "Oh well, it's all good. It's all well." Apart from if the child is, everyone knows that child as a naughty one and all that.
Hmm.
Then you see them during the parent consultation. Then parent teachers consultation. You see it reflecting, but most times they'll just say, "Oh, everything is good, or it's all fine." But ask those questions. What is the examining body for this subject? What does she need to improve on?
Mm.
Don't just go on they're good, there's no question, everything is fine with that child. They might, before you know it, they might have the child might actually be doing a foundation instead of
Yeah.
a higher paper. All of these things we need to know. And
Yeah, I was
sorry,
gonna
I
say, and make sure you read between the lines because when they're
yes.
talking, we live in a culture where you're not supposed to say this one is bad or whatever. So they might say, "Oh, Dr. Helen is trying so hard to meet deadline." When Helen is in class, that means she doesn't come to school. But no one is going to tell you that your child is sitting in the toilet all the time. Whenever they're in class, they produce excellent work. You
Mm,
understand? Okay. They're trying so hard to meet deadlines. Yeah, they understand what print on paper means. So always look for those kind of covert,
yes.
pragmatic kind of undertones in what
Mm,
they're saying to you. So that's why when you go for your parent consultation, go with a notebook so that it may not be clear then. Then you can always go back and say,
yes.
this is what yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. There are many comments. I'll still read them. Before the secondary section, before going into the secondary, sorry, I had to backtrack. I have to backtrack now. The primary one, some people don't know anything about 11 plus, and the schools are not even saying anything about it, just because of the fear of exams and all of those things.
They are not obliged to actually.
Yeah,
Mm.
really. But
No,
it's
No,
they're
they
not.
don't.
They're
they're
not
not.
obliged to. The only one they're obliged to is the year 6 SATs.
Because I know at some point they introduced one of these Ofsted things, that how many of your students got into grammar school, especially
Yeah.
if you're in a school where in a catchment area or
Mm.
somewhere like Rugby now, where the grammar schools are, what people yearn for. So in the Ofsted, all these metrics, because I was a governor in one of those primary schools, they added it one of the times, where where is a destination of the children who
Yeah.
are in your school. So some schools talk about it, some schools don't. So if you're in an area where there are grammar schools,
Mm.
please, you don't have to pay to for your child to do an exam. Give
Mm.
them that opportunity, because there is a faith-based, there is a private school, there is public school, there is a
Grammar school.
grammar
The
school.
selective
and
ones. Yeah.
and I think it depends on what
Mm.
county you are in. So
Yeah.
please make your research. Um, I will go
Sorry.
on now to the second part of the secondary school, which is yeah. Before we go into the second part about GCSEs, we know this is GCSE
Mm.
season. People are doing GCSEs at the moment, and I don't know if it's too late, but for those who are in year 10, can we please explain what the who is that?
Mm.
Sorry.
Can we please explain what the higher
Mm.
paper foundation paper is, and also the EdXL, AQA,
Okay.
OST, and all
All
that?
right. Okay,
Um,
just quickly. So what it is as well, when the child leaves year 9, that's the end of key stage 3. So their GCSE journey begins in year 10.
yes.
So what happens is as well, there are many exam boards. So you've got the Welsh board, you've got Oxford, Cambridge, they're called OCR, you've got EdXL, you've got Pearson's. Some schools would do IGCSE.
Mm,
Okay, some schools do the International Baccalaureate, and then you've got AQA, and what else? Yeah, I think AQA and CIE, Cambridge International Exam. So those of you who've come from Nigeria, you know that there was only WAEC, which served Nigeria and whatever. So, but what you have is these exam boards are charity based. You understand? So what teachers do is they would sit. So I, for instance, would look at the cohort that I've got, and I would look at what exam board suits them. Sometimes in the way that they set their questions, sometimes in what is being weighted. Now the objectives are the same for everybody, but sometimes the way that the questions are framed are different. Now, again, some teachers will put kids in foundation, and that's only in maths and science now. Before, you used to have tiered, even in my subject, English, it used to be tiered, but now it's not anymore because we expect everybody to be reading. So for the foundation, I always say that, and again, even the exam board advise teachers, and they will say it's not based on behavior, because some people might say, "I've never seen you in class." So again, that's something that you have to go and fight for. You understand? And especially those of you who are in certain areas. And I'll just give you something that happened to me, because my daughter, we don't live, in London as well. And by the time she got to year 10, next thing now, they're telling her to do BTech. And the thing is, one thing that I'm very good at is I don't tell anybody that I'm a senior leader in the school. So I'm just looking at them, and I'm going back and forth with this lady until push came to shove. I said, "Did you see her SATs grades? Did you see this?" They were even telling her, "Why did she choose GCSE music?" And she said, "Miss, didn't you see me playing piano in assembly?" So sometimes, if you're not careful, these children get ceiling. You understand? So the same with the foundation. Now, the foundation, they will say, because it's easier. But can I say, if you don't get a grade in the foundation, what would happen is that you may not get a grade at all. You understand? So sometimes it's better to take a risk and put that child in the higher tier, because sometimes, even in the maths higher tier, sometimes 24 marks will get them a grade 4. Whereas in the foundation, you need to get 48, 49, sometimes 55 out of 60 to get that same grade 4. And if you don't get that grade 4, you might end up with a U. You
Yes.
understand? So it's better to make sure that you speak. That's why I'm saying that when you go with data. Because if you haven't got data and you're just speaking from a place of emotion, and you're speaking from whatever, then people are not going to really listen to you. You understand? One thing that I also wanted to say for parents, and I just pray, and God forbid anything bad happens to maybe traffic or whatever on the day of the exam. It's good, especially when the kids are in year 10, that they do their utmost. They work so hard. You understand? And in year 11, and they don't throw their books away. Because I've been in position where somebody had fever, was throwing up, couldn't do the exam. But fortunately, there was excellent work. So I was able to present those books to the exam board, and they used that to give her the grade that she deserved. And she got a grade 7. But can you imagine if that person was not working, or especially during COVID? I had one boy,
Yes.
there was only two pieces of work in his book. And I said, "How can I even present this and get you? You can't even get a grade 2 with this." So that's just something that, as parents, that we need to make sure that we do with our children. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any addition to that? Okay. Yes. So thank you very much. And the chat here, people are actually going very fast with the chat, which is very interesting because it makes it interactive, and we're able to pin all those common questions. It says, "Give your children your time." Yes, they need it. Please, can you share the tutoring resources mentioned in the chat, please? Okay, I've put that together. I've put it on the chat again. And someone, Kome Yutulu, says, "Wow, wow." Um, Kome Yutulu says she was very good. Intentions. Okay. I don't know what that is. Amy says, "Oh, they are okay, neurodivergent." She was very good in primary school. Okay, that's what you wanted to write. Okay. So the
Can I
person who
just
is struggling with math.
can I just address that
Yes.
briefly? That she was very good in math. Primary school math is different from
Your
secondary high school math. One thing you have to understand.
sorry.
Sorry, it's echoing.
You're echoing.
Sorry, one thing you have to understand is they get a lot more work in year 7 than they get almost 3 times as much more work they do in year 7 than in year 6. So you also have to be prepared for that as a parent, in that they have to constantly be on revision status. You may want to talk to a teachers, a math teacher particularly, to find out where she's struggling, and also ask her herself why she is struggling. it might just be that the learning style, the teaching style of the teacher does not suit her. And that might be something you may want to bring up. I remember that this is something I've recently have had to address with one of my son's teachers in his school to say, I don't think his English teacher is getting along with her because he's always getting negative points in the class and he's not achieving as well. This was someone in year 7 that was getting 8 and now it suddenly dropped to 6. What's going on? I didn't say it was anything to do with the teacher. I just mentioned it, and and suddenly, well, she was a supply teacher and then she left, and then he says suddenly he's got another teacher and he actually prefers a method of teaching. So there's those are some of the things that you may have to explore as parents. If all else fails, there is nothing wrong in looking for a tutor. Okay, there is sincerely nothing wrong in looking for a tutor. It may just be that she needs someone else to explain the concepts in a different way to her. Like when I tutor people math, I do not tutor it the way they tutor it in school. I come to the level at which they would understand. Okay, if you do not understand algebra, do you understand oranges and apples? And then we can use that to explain the concepts of algebra. So it may just be that she needs someone else to explain those concepts to her in a different way. So, and you're welcome to explore that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So I'll go on to the next. Okay, for the postgraduates, sorry, I've got a conflict here with noise. For the post 16 and sixth form or college, what are the main differences between A level, B Tech, and apprentice?
That's from me, I believe. Now, when you finish at high school, you've got 4 pathways. You've got A levels, or sixth form. Well, let me say you've got sixth form. Sixth forms are usually either dedicated schools, which they basically just teach six forms, or it will be affiliated to a school. You do get on some occasions, six forms affiliated to a college. What's the difference between a sixth form and a college? College, the only thing they offer is post 16, or what the UK will call further education. Further education. And they do that because, like I said, the government has mandated that kids stay in school now until compulsorily until they're 18. A levels, you only get to study 3 courses, I believe, and those 3 will be your core units. Um, and they will feed into whatever it is you want to do after A levels. So if you're going to universities, most people that go to A levels tend to be what we call the university track. Not all of them go to universities, but they'll be like the really academically inclined. You have to have like a minimum level in your GCSEs to even be considered for most six forms, and A level for A levels. Six forms would only do A levels. You can take up to 4 A levels. Thank you for that correction. You can take up to 4 A levels as well, and then you will do those A levels. It's usually pretty intense. So if you're not sure that your child can handle intense academic, I'm not saying it's bad, but if you're not sure, you have to know your child. So if you're not sure your child will can handle that intensity of A level, they can go to college and they would still be able to go to universities. Because like I said, I know people that have done A levels, especially the science A levels. Even one of my niece at the moment is going through A levels and she wants to study economics. And I can bet you she doesn't sleep. So if you're not sure that your kids can handle the intensity, sometimes it might be worth them going to college. Colleges would offer you 2 things. Sometimes they can do A levels, or like a sixth form, like they would do in sixth form. But then you also have 3 pathways in college. BTech, although government wants to phase out BTechs now, so the most colleges are still not doing. They're still offering BTech. There's something called T levels, which is where government says most BTech should feed into. I'll explain the difference in a bit. And then there's something called apprenticeships. Now, BTech is what we would call O levels in Nigeria. So you go in, you do your BTech. Level 3 is O levels, is 2 years. However, depending on the grade you come out with at GCSEs, you may some colleges will say, right, we don't think you're strong enough, so we want you to start at level 2. Level 2 is 1 year, and then you go on to level 3, and then you do 2 years. Some colleges would even say, oh, we don't even think you can start at level 2, so they will bump you to level 1, and then you start at level 1. How does that affect the fact that you have to be in education till you're 18? Once you've started at a level 1 unit, and you go on and you progress on to level 3, your free funding will continue automatically, even when you time out over 18. So that will happen. They will keep that pot of funding because basically you don't have a level 3, so they can still draw on that funding from the government, and that's fine. But like I said, depending on the grades you come out at university at GCSEs, they will put you in level 1, level 2. But most people tend to go into level 3, which is standard 2 years, and you come out. You finish with in an O level in whatever you've gone on to study. However, like I said, the government wants to phase out BTECs because of one reason. They say people who do just ordinary BTEC are just academics, but that's not the reason why we've got colleges. Colleges should be preparing people who are ready to go into the market. So if they only study academics, then they don't have the practical experience that would make them ready to employ. So government wants to kind of has introduced the T levels where you have to mandatorily do a minimum number of hours in the industry. It's what so even if you're doing T levels and they say T levels, it might be what you as a parent to be searching for where your child would be doing that what we call industrial placement, just like you do after your O levels, but they do that in between. So it might be what you exploring where they will do their industrial placement when it's time for them, because not all colleges have the links in the industry to get your child to where they need to get those placements, and without that placement they can't complete their education. So that's the difference between BTech and now
For instance,
ships.
yeah.
So sorry. Then apprenticeships are another form of diploma. However, they have a slight benefit in that if you apply for an apprenticeship, you're earning as you're studying. It's not BTech, it's not T levels. They have their own, they usually have their own guild. So if you're saying engineering, for example, you could be doing a BTech apprenticeship, which is not common. Most times the apprenticeship framework, it has its own framework, and the way it works is you go to into the industry, and then depending on then the college says, oh, you have to come into the college 3 times a week in year 1. So 3 days in a week you're at college learning the academic part, and then the remaining 2 days you're back in the industry, you're back at work working. What that means is you get paid for that period while you're at work. You don't pay any money for your education, but you get paid for the work you do in the industry. You can still go to university on apprenticeships, although it's slightly harder, but it's still is something that can be explored. If you finish your T levels, not all I have to caveat here, not all universities recognize T levels just yet because it's fairly new. This was introduced it had been in the talks for a few years. COVID happened, so they delayed the start. So they've only just really started it a couple of years ago. So not all universities understand it anymore. One other caveat I'll say is if your child is studying BTech at college level and they want to go on onto university level, It might be what you're looking at, whatever course they want to study at university level, and whichever university they may want to consider, so that you can start aiming for those grades. Because if you don't prepare for those grades from year one, believe me, if you don't prepare for those grades from year one, it might be very difficult for you to achieve them in year two. So they have to start up getting those grades right from year one. It's all cumulative, unfortunately, which means the number of grades they get gives them so if you get a grade, it gives you a points. Say it gives you like a number, and then those numbers are accumulated, and then you then match those numbers to whatever grade on the BTech form, and then that would because what they use it to do is they convert it to your sixth form or A level grades.
Yeah.
So whatever grade you think you get in college, if you're going on to universities, those grades are converted to numbers. Those numbers are added up, and that numbers, the addition of those numbers will be mapped to your A level grades. So you have to work for those grades that you want, which will be equivalent to those A levels. So you have to constantly check on those for you to know. Okay, that's thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add two things as well, and you kind of touched on it briefly. You have to know your child as well. If you think that they're the ones who probably need that discipline and are not able to grind and study, then maybe it's better they stay on it the school if the school has
Yeah.
sixth form, because then they'll just be treated like a secondary school student, and it
Yes.
is better for them, because some people, they go to the what's it called, college or the sixth form center, and it's freedom. You understand? There's also another route, the higher education diploma. So that one, if you don't have A levels, but it's done online, and I've known a few people who've done that as well, because they couldn't cope with A levels, just issues. They had, different issues, but it's all done online, and they do get accepted into university. It's called the High Access to Higher Education Diploma. I'll double check it for you. But, again, it's another route that a lot of people use as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you. That takes us to the last part of the post 16 sixth form colleges. Is how do I help my child choose a post 16 pathway that aligns with their future goals? What would you advise a parent?
I think it starts from when they're in year 9. And
Before.
as parent, and then I'll hand over to you, because you can do the rest, because sometimes we wait until they do their A levels, and then say, what do you want to study? Kind of by year 9, you have to have an idea. I remember one girl who said to me, she was in my form at the time, oh, I want to sing. Even the mom said, but you don't even sing in the bathroom. So, this is the shyest girl in the whole world and wants to do drama and music. So you got to look at their strengths. And, this is why it's very important to know your child as well, and see what it is that they enjoy, what is it that they like. So you kind of have an idea of what they want to do. You then look at the subjects that they're doing. And sometimes when they do their GCSE, you will see the ones that are quite difficult are the ones that are all rounders, and they get all grade 9s and 8s in everything. And then you're thinking, what do you want to do medicine? So that would require conversation, because they will tell you, no, I did well in science, but I don't really like science. My heart is this, you understand? So that is the first thing that you need to think about. So once they've chosen the right GCSE courses as well, then when they do their exams, okay, where do you think they've done really well? And I always say to students as well that you try and balance it out. I take kids to places like Cambridge, and that's just from school. And one of the things that Cambridge University said is that we don't really want anybody who wants to do medicine to get A in maths and physics and chemistry. If they had maths and they had chemistry, or they had maths and biology, and they were doing literature, they'd take that person, because there's another dimension to them. So you have to think, because sometimes when people write their personal statements for university, and yeah, I'll leave you to touch on that. When they write those statements, what happens is they're not realizing that they've dug a hole for themselves. So they might want to do medicine, but they're talking about, when they heard that this person had cancer and this, and they're so much interested in cancer. So when they get offered now to go and do cancer research of the medicine that they chose, they're wondering, why have I not got that? But the statement doesn't reflect that. You understand? And the courses that they've done has not reflected that. So if you know somebody who from a young age, they're sure, and so they've chosen subjects that will set them up to be a nurse, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, that's fine. if you have people who are not really sure, like my daughter, she wasn't really sure whether, we were going from one year, oh, I don't want to do medicine. Then she went to King's College, oh, I don't want to do dentistry. And then in the end, I said, well, then why don't you do social sciences and then do your science? So she did chemistry, biology, she did sociology, and she did food tech. So she actually did four. And then because of that, she was able to get into dietetics. And God is so good, I didn't have to pay unit fees as well when she did that, because the NHS funded that course. But you understand. So, but it was both ways, that look, if you're not sure, then there's social work. You can use this to get to law. You could do political science, or if you're pursuing the sciences, then you can go that route. So it's, that's just what I wanted to say. Over to you, Dr. Helen. The pathway,
Yeah.
future, yeah.
Yes. So how do you choose a pathway? Also, Fatima.
I think for me, like you said, you have to start having that conversation early. And I would say this: it's fine if they change their mind. Um, my niece that I said is studying economics. She initially wanted to be a vet. Then she said she was going to study medicine or pharmacy, and now she's going on to study economics. So it's fine they change your mind, but it's fine for them. Just have that conversation, because if you don't have that conversation and you leave it to year 10, then it might be a bit too late, because by that time they've locked in all their choices, and they've been locked in into one way. Have those conversations early and help them achieve those goals as early as they can. If you think they're struggling in something, offer those help really. Once they get to post 16 and they're doing their A levels, and that's the other thing. Before they choose their A levels, they also kind of have to have an idea of what they want to do, because that's what will determine what A level courses they will choose. Okay, so you also have to have that conversation. Or if, well, even if it's college, um bearing in mind colleges would offer you courses from engineering, access to healthcare, barbing, beauty, which is things like masseuse. They would. I had someone that I have friends that did baking,
Yeah,
IT,
hairdressing,
business, hairdressing. So there's
plumbing.
loads of options, literally loads of options in colleges. So if you're not quite sure, they can look through the courses. One of my nephews said he wanted to study photography. Sorry, I'm a typical Nigerian for photo where that one is a not be not a not. Although I did try to encourage him, I did say, okay, bring your portfolio and then we'll see whether it's a career worth doing. Because honestly, it might be a career worth doing. At the moment, he's studying business in uni, because I said, well, business. And then, okay, right. What exactly is the end game here? And he says, well, I like digital things. I like that. So we chose business, because business has an aspect of marketing, digital marketing, which he particularly liked. So we chose that. And then he's doing business with the marketing part where. So there are options. But if you don't have those conversations with the kids, and we've gone away from the age where you have to be either a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Now the world is the oyster. So it's helping them achieve what they want and supporting them in achieving what they want. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very
I,
much. And I like where you said it's okay to change their minds, because children will tell you, oh, I want to be an Aaron, I want to be a pilot this time. Then they change their mind. Oh, okay, I think I'd like to be a bus driver, or I'd like to be a teacher. I'd like to. They just choose anything based on maybe what their friends say, or what they watched on TV or something. And so yeah, but I think the parents need to know who their children really are and help them make such very cogent decisions. Now
I
I'll
would,
read the comments.
sorry, one last thing. I would also say with regards to that in changing their mind is that you have to be careful in that when you've got a very lackadaisical child who sometimes needs a bit of pushing.
Mm,
Like I said, if you know your child, if you know your family, you're able to guide them. Do you understand? So that's the most important part. In that when they are not sure themselves of who they want to be, the most important aspect there is trying to figure out what they are interested in. So if you can figure out what they're interested in, you can kind of push them. Like this my nephew, I said, I literally pushed him into business. I said, well, you're going to study, because he said he was going to study this, he was going to study that. And, he wasn't quite sure. So I pushed him into business. That, look, it's got a little bit of what I know you're definitely interested in, and try it. And he actually, and he went to colleges as well. He did business at college. And he said, actually, that was a very good course for him to have studied, and which is why he then went to study business at university level. So sometimes that's the most important aspect, and when they themselves are not sure, is that what are their interests, and how can I help them align their interest to whatever may be on offer at this, whether it's A level or colleges or big tech or T levels, even apprenticeships. And I'm not one to slag off apprenticeships. Actually, some apprenticeships are very good. So it depends on what is
Yeah.
obtainable for your family. What do you think will work best for
Yeah.
your family dynamics? Universities are not just the only way. It depends on what will work best within your family. And some apprentices actually go on to become quite successful. Some even do apprenticeships at university level.
Mm. True. True. Thank you very much. We've got just two more questions, and that's going now to the top of the mountain, which is the university. Thank you for staying tuned. I think we should have had a break so that we could stand and, drink water. But thank you. Thank you. We'll make this very snappy. We've done 1 hour, 30, almost 30 minutes already. The question is, how, for the university now, that's 18 plus, how does the student loan system work? And what financial support is available for immigrant families? So thank you very much for answering. For those online, thank you for staying tuned with us. Please write your comments, write your questions, and our guests are ready to answer. Then there's Shelly. You said you were going to say something. I know your camera is not on, but you're on. Your I can see you.
Yeah, I apologize. Sorry, I was late because yeah, we had some issue at the house, so I should have been here earlier. I just wanted to add that to one of the comments that was made about knowing your child, and just to say that some of the schools are now using a website. In probably year seven, they're introducing kids to a website called Unifrog, um, which is and what I'm finding is that with my students is that they're being given the access, they're being shown how to do it at school, but that's the last time we ever hear of it because even parents don't know that it's there. But if your child has actually been given access to Unifrog, that's a really important tool for them to use. So there's Unifrog, or if they haven't got Unifrog, National Career Service is also quite a good one as well, because we've got kids who, like you said, don't know what they want to do. They haven't got a clue, and it's fine. It's a bit still early doors, so they can actually go on there, do a personality profile, kind of figures out what it is they like to do, and then kind of steers them towards a career. Then it shows them what this career pays. It tells them how, it gives them other ideas about, like, or people who are in those careers, things that they probably never even thought of. Like, for example, people who want to work in sports but can't play sports, they can actually work in hospitality, in, like do food, like nutrition, within sports rather than do sports itself. So different avenues that they might not have thought about. Also as well, uni, like somebody said, is not the only avenue. I mean, sorry, yes, uni is not the only avenue directly. You don't, it's not like a straight A to B. So I myself did A levels and then did like what my parents called a treading water career, because they're like, if you don't know what you want to do after A level, you might as well do something so that you're not just sitting around, and I've got nephews who are still doing that. Just, but then what happens is, as soon as you figure out what you want to do, I did an access to higher education course, and ended up in Cambridge. So it's not it's not a dead end. If your child doesn't end up at uni straight away after A level, it's not the end of the road. And some apprenticeships are with a really amazing company like Jaguar, those kind of things where they can actually then do, and they're earning money as well as growing up, learning to be adults and going to work every day, etc., and earning their own money and becoming independent. So by the time even they go to uni as mature students, which is over 21, then that way it's actually better off for them, because then they don't get involved in the whole like party kind of stuff that's going on at uni and probably lose their minds a little bit. So it might be even a better option ultimately. So don't lose heart if your child doesn't follow the traditional route. There are other ways. There's not one way to skin a cat, as they say. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I
Yes.
just wanted to just add something, and I think, look, we should not underestimate the value of what we have here today, because there are organizations, there are people. I know one, for instance, called King's Gen. They organize all sorts of things. There's the Millionaires Boys Club as well. Where again, and some people pay all the way from Essex to get their kids to there in South London. So, because I think, Dr. Helen just wrote that schools don't have those resources and capacity, and you're right. These things are meant to be delivered, but can they deliver? I know, for instance, that the careers person in my school has been off sick, and we may not have her, but I know that there are organizations, there are people, who know people, who can help. When my son was looking for work experience, there was somebody that I can draw on to help him, and he was able to work in one of the prestigious law firms before he decided that that's what he was going to do. And don't underestimate your own power as well. You don't have to wait till the university open day. When there are open days and then year 10 or 11, take them to King's College, take them to Cambridge. You understand? Let them go and see, and so that they've got that as well. So, because remember what I said is the way the curriculum is as well, it's more about their cultural capital as well. And you can start and who's best placed to do that than you, the parents.
Yes, true. Thank you very much. You just reminded me of open days. There was a time every weekend we were going open days, open evening, open everything. Anyway, thank you. Comment here says from Amy says, I think making sure the child attends as many placements as the school offers can help the child make the right choice for their future career. And as we've heard also, we also need to be proactive as parents. Look for it for yourself. Don't wait for the school to put them to find a place for them. Let's see. So for universities now, how does the student loan system work, and what financial support is available for immigrant families? Now we're gone into university. Please, I want you to talk about the UCAS, and because not many people know that you have to. There's no jump here. There's no which is the way do they apply in Nigeria, whichever part of the country people are coming from, because it's not just Nigerians, it's not just Africans. There's you have to go through UCAS and register, or correct me if I'm wrong. So please, can you explain the university system to as many who want to go through the university route or route? Sorry, I'm speaking American now. Yes.
I know a little bit about it. Only because I helped while I was a college tutor. I helped some of my students apply to it. Right, for you to go to university in this in the UK as an 18-year-old or go for first level, you have to go through UCAS. You
Yes.
can't go anywhere else. Even for the apprenticeships, you have to go through UCAS. Funny enough, there is an apprenticeship section, but there is also the university section. UCAS can be confusing. And if your children go to like a really good sixth form, or a really good college, they will help them through the UCAS application. Basically, all universities are registered on UCAS. All their courses are on UCAS. Once they will be offering for the year your child will be going into. UCAS opens when? September, I believe. But then all your university applications have to be in by January. If you're applying to Oxbridge, which is Oxford and Cambridge, applications have to be in by mid-October. So
Okay.
actually, it opens a bit earlier. I think it
Let me say,
opens
it says on here, UCAS undergraduate applications for the 2026 entry open on May 30th.
May. I was about to say, I think it actually opens in May. And from May till January of 2026, that application portal will be open. Why does it take so long? Do they open it for so long? Because unlike other primary school and secondary school, you only have maybe 5 weeks for the application portal. That's because there are so many universities and so many courses. Let me give you an example. The same university is offering product design engineering, product and creative design, and design and something. One is more geared towards arts, one is BSc, and one is in engineering, and it's the same university. So how do you then decipher which one you're applying for? So they give you time so that you can whittle out your universities. You have loads of universities there, from all the way from the south of England all the way to Scotland. All of those universities are in there. I'm not quite sure about Scotland though, but I know the Wales universities are there as well. One other important, so once you've then chosen, I think you're allowed to choose 5 universities. One other, the most important aspect of UCAS, apart from your grades, is the personal statement. And like you said, Auntie, is that personal statement is one of the most important things your child would write in when it comes to UCAS.
Mm.
I know that when I was helping we were writing personal statements for 3 months. They will write, you'll be like, what have you written? Go back and write. They will bring and you say, okay, yeah, that's good, but you need to make yourself shine, because a lot of people are applying for the same course. So you need to make yourself shine. So it's what makes you as an individual. Because imagine then those applications go to the universities. Once the application portal closes. Those application goes to the university. One thing you also have to understand is sometimes if you submit your application early, sometimes I'm not advocating for you to submit your application already. When your application is ready, when you feel comfortable, you submit the application, because once you've submitted it, you can't make changes, you can't make amendments.
Yeah.
But what you then get is the universities then offer you conditional offer. There could be a lot of different conditions. One of the conditions for one of my nieces was that she had to create a portfolio. The one that wanted to study product design, she had to create a portfolio. And in that portfolio, she had to have engineering drawing, she had to have still life drawing, she had to have something creative, something engineering, something technical. It could be that. One of the other conditional offers was pending on the grades they achieve at A levels or at colleges. Each universities and each course would have what they set as conditions. But the barest minimum would be your end grade coming from A levels or GCSEs, and those would be the barest minimum. And then once you then get your conditional offer, I think is when you start applying for loans. I'm not quite sure how the loan system works because I've not gotten to that stage yet. And I know that when I get to that stage, one thing I will do is ask questions. Because if you don't ask questions, you're very, very. One thing I do know is if you're not careful and you mistakenly type something that is wrong, your child can go from potentially having like 11 grand per year just for living expenses to 3 grand per year. So you have to be very careful when you fill those forms. I'll leave those to my boss.
Yeah, just one or two things on that. So the first thing I was going to say as well is that in terms of the admission process, and that's also because the schools I've worked at had A level. So what would also happen is they the teachers will give predicted grades, but you have to make sure that time your child and you're working closely with the head of sixth form and the form tutors as well, the subject teachers, because sometimes when the university says they want 3 years and the teacher is telling you that you're getting a B in this subject and D, then that's it. You may not be able to go to the university of your choice. Secondly, if your statements are very good, some universities would actually give you an unconditional offer. And my son had that, but we just sat him down and said, it will be good at some point when people are showing their grades that you can say that, I got AAA or I got BBB rather than you just it doesn't matter because they say if you take us first choice, that's it, you're getting, we've got you. So, but he didn't take those. So also depending on where you live as well. So sorry if you live in a very posh area, okay, then if they say that they want you to get 3 A stars and all sorts of conditions attached to it, that's what you're getting. But they look at some postcodes as well, and depending on where that is as well, they would reduce the offer. So where some people are asked to come with AAA, you will see that they will say for them specifically, they get AAB, and that's fine. So there are so many things that go on, behind the scenes.
Mm.
In terms of loan as well. Now, obviously, if both of you are working and you're earning a lot, you'll probably just get the minimum
Yeah.
plus tuition fees. Now,
Mm.
how about those? And this is why I said sometimes for those who have Japan and the child is coming year 11, they may, and at the moment we're supporting one or two parents in that kind of respect because they've come and the child wants to do medicine. He's even got the offer, but they keep on saying we need proof of this, we need
Mm.
proof of that. But I think he will be 3 years because they said if he's 3 years it's fine. So I think by the time he goes into uni, so that's the way we now spun it, that by the time he starts he would have been 3 years in the country. So hopefully, and then got the head teacher to write letters, so hopefully he should be fine. So these are things that if you want to bring your child, bring them early so that they're already in that system. So again, depending, like I said, if both of you are working, it may just be that 3,000 plus your tuition fees. Okay. But if not, you can get, maximum allowance, single, and our people as well. And I don't think it's, I just say just be careful because what you don't want to do is do something for your child and you're having to look over your shoulder. And
Mm.
some people as well, they know how to bump things up. You understand? And before you know it, they're getting a huge sum, which personally I don't think it's right, but just again, just something to watch. Now, also, another thing I was going to say, although you get that, this is why, just going back to all the points we were making earlier on about knowing your child and supporting them and questioning so that they do the right course. What would happen in some cases as well is that some kids will go into uni and think, this is not for me. I think I want to be an architect now. I want to be an engineer. And then they change course. But what you don't realize is that loan, I think you're only allowed to fail once in terms of the tuition fees. So some people have changed course
Mm.
and now they've come to the fourth year. There's no money because they've used everything up. And so now, they're looking for 9,000 plus accommodation, expenses that the parents were not aware of before. It's going to be really hard. So
Mm.
it's just making sure that people are having those robust discussions with their children so that they know, not putting pressure, but, just, are you sure this is what you want to do? Da, da, da. But I thought I saw you being very good at the flute. No, I want to study drumming. Then that's fine. That at least that whatever. And, and especially that just one thing again, another note, and this usually with girls, I mean, Dr. Helen said, she worked in school before and she decided that, what, I actually want to be, go to my profession, be an engineer, which is what she's done. Sometimes guys are not wired like that. And I'm not saying this to be sexist. So a guy would be in uni year one and then they think this is this man and they're gone. But a girl might tend to study, finish off and then say, you
Mm.
know what, I want to do nursing. So with our guys, we need to make sure that we're getting them to work with us so that we don't end up with somebody who's got no degree and now you've got about a bill of about 20K to pay.
Mm. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much. That's an eye opener. Thank you. Before we go on to the last one, which is factors to consider when choosing a university course, I'll just quickly do an overview of what the loan system looks like. In addition to what has been said, remember you have tuition fees to pay for most universities, and there's maintenance loan to help with living costs like the rent, the food, the transport. So students don't have to pay upfront; they repay after the graduation, and that is when they start earning a certain amount of
Oh yeah.
money. And I know people will say, oh, even if they have opportunities for higher, they don't. Well, I don't know them, but I mean, I've heard of people I don't, that would rather go below the threshold just because they don't want to pay off. I don't know why people do that, but anyway, that's something some people do. But I think we should always aim for the best. If you've got a loan, I think the best thing is to pay it off. Get to start paying it off. And then there's the repayment details, where payments starts only if you start earning 25,000 per year, which started in 2024. You repay 9% of your income over that threshold. Your income drops below the threshold, repayments will pause. And then after 40 years, any unpaid loan is written off. I don't, this is UK. Anything can change. They can change it tomorrow. But for now, after 40 years, unpaid loan is written off. And if you earn 28,000 per year, there's that calculation there on the screen. Also now for immigrant children, if they qualify or not, that also could change. So I can't really say much about that. But if there's anyone on the platform in the chat who's who's got immigration status and with all the ILR and all of these things, if you have information about this, please type it in the chat. We would like to hear from you, because things change so quickly in this country that we can't really say this is it.
One thing I would say about that is I am not sure about the loan system, but I do know that for a child to be eligible for home fees
Yes.
at university, the child must have been legally in the country for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise you'd have to pay international fees.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider.
True. Yeah, it says children of immigrants on visa may need to meet long residence rules, e.g., live in the UK for at least 3 years before the course starts. All right. And then the course or university must be a recognized UK university or higher education provider and must be a full-time course to be eligible for support. And there are some other ones: scholarships, bursaries, grants, disabled students allowance. Make sure you read. Student loans do not affect your credit rating, and the loan is in the student's name, not the parent's name. So repayment is more like a graduate tax than traditional debt. All right. We go on to the last question of the day. Thank you very much for staying tuned with us. This is the longest I've ever had, and it's so interesting. I can't even believe that we have actually stayed here for 2 hours. Finally, what factors should we consider when choosing a university and course, especially as first generation students? So, do we have any advice?
Yeah,
Do
I
we
think
just
one.
raise the
Yeah.
passion?
Okay, one of the things that I would say, I think, just like Dr. Helen was saying, photography, what do you want to do with it, whatever. Here, we live in a country where there's dignity of labor. We live in a country where, that this work ethic is being celebrated. And, because I remember, even, when my parents used to complain about somebody doing music in uni, somebody doing what else, drama. Even I wanted to do drama. And, they were saying, oh, do you want to be a Baba Salah, whatever. But, but yeah, if you did it here, it's not a problem. So, because what you don't want as well, because life here is so fast paced that if we don't allow a child to live their dream, obviously with caution as well and giving parental guidance, you may end up with somebody who's just so depressed and has mental health issues. You understand? So I think the first thing, again, is to make sure that you look at the university, you look at the course as well. And the thing is, I see it as well sometimes. It's Oxford. Oh, it's Cambridge. By the way, as well, for Oxford, Cambridge, you can only apply to one because they're going for the same kids. So you're either doing Oxford or you're doing Cambridge, not both at the same time. And people put pressure on their kids, and then these kids feel that they're not good enough. So again, what is the course? What do they want to study? Then also look at the course structure. There are some, that's why, again, it's good to go to the open days and talk to people so that you have an idea, a very basic idea of what you're putting yourself in for. Look at the university life as well, So if you have, that's why it's good to go to those open days too. Yeah. You see, talking about Oxford, Cambridge, there are some kids that I know, and, Dr. Helen was talking about destinations, for primary school. Was it you? No, you as a governor, Dr.
Yes.
Bumiego. For us as well, we are judged on the destinations, after sixth form, where have they gone? And now I think, if I remember, now do they even finish uni? So that also comes back to us as well. You
Mm,
understand, as a school and our rating. So again, looking at what is sustainable for that child, how are they going to cope when they get there? So go there, have a look at the ratings, look at the reviews.
yeah.
The thing is, sometimes something may not be good, just like even with schools. When my son's school requires improvement, all the parents used to say, "But I'm so disappointed in you. You're a parent, you're a teacher as well, and you're leaving him here." But I know what I saw, because he was thriving. You understand? And people were taking their kids away from the school. So in his year two class, there were only 10 of them. You don't get that in private school. So, and because of that, he excelled. You understand?
Mm,
So it's just really knowing those things and those factors. So that's what, so I would say that visit, have a look at university life, have a look at that, have things. I remember I did an open day with some of my kids, and they saw someone, I'm a little drama queen anyway, walking like this. And you know what the boys said? They said, look at gangsters come to uni. I want to go to uni too. So there you go. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mm.
Thank you. Also interesting. So educational. I've learned stuff as well from here. So thank you very much. Are there any last questions? Any last, something you just remember that, oh, I forgot to say that. Is Shirley still here? Shirley, are you still here? Anything you want to add, or I'm not sure, subtract, divide, multiply?
Yeah, just wanted to say about uni. When your child is going to uni, where they're going really does matter, not just the university itself. So universities are different classes. It might have a really nice name, but it depends on what they want to study. There are Russell Group universities, which means they're renowned for research, or they're renowned for certain things. So depending on what your child wants to study, make sure that that university is classed as a particularly good university for that. It might not be good for certain things, but it might be the best at certain things. So just because a university has a really good name globally doesn't mean it excels in that thing that your child wants to study there. Another university that might not have such a great name might actually excel in that subject. So sometimes it's not just about, oh, I went to this university. Is it that, did you go to the university that is the best for that subject, for example? The other thing is about I know some parents who want their child to stay near home, and just because that's what you want is not doesn't mean that that's what's the best, because the university that's near you might not be the best for that. And I think somebody was talking about Scotland, universities in Scotland, um, especially if you want to do any they require higher maths grades for some reason. So you might have to work a little bit harder to go to a university in Scotland. Also, universities in Wales, I think the cost of living is lower. So you can, if you're looking at your pocket, maybe have a look at a university in Wales or even Scotland, because it will be cheaper in terms of cost of living rather than having them in London. So it's not just about, there are other things to consider,
Mm,
perhaps. There are also the university that you choose, or the universities that you want your child to go to, because we're ethnic minorities, if you like, it used to be called BAME. There, most universities will have some kind of grant or an affiliation to a grant giving body that actually gives money to people, to minorities, because they want to encourage engagement from those groups. So that might help a lot. I know that Cambridge and Oxford do that. So if you're applying to Oxford and Cambridge and you actually get an offer, also apply. Sometimes they'll give you more money so that you don't have to actually work in order to stay at school. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks.
my mic was mute there. So thank you very much, Shelley, for that addition. We are calling it a night. Are there any last words, you want to say, Helen and Mrs.
I,
Murphy?
yeah, I just wanted to say, and only that's it's just because of what I do. So if you need any support, any help, even framing a letter, just do contact Dr. Bumi Abel to contact me. Even if I can't help, I have got a team network of people that whether it's last minute revision. I've had history teachers on the phone doing last minute revision with people. So just anything that you need. If you need any diagnostic assessments or the reading test, like I said, look for Hertfordshire reading test, just anything. Or you've got some data or reports and you just don't understand how to read it, if you contact her, and I hope you don't mind, that you can contact me, then I'm happy to help in that capacity.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope you're not going to have a, a truckload of requests.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's
I'm
fine.
sure.
It's fine.
Thank you. Thank you very
No.
much. Thank you. Yes, from you, Mrs. Famodimu. Doctor.
Not really. Like I said, I think one of the things that has been reoccurring is know your child and be there for them. Really, um, just know. And that's just it. Really, my children as well. I've not had any tutor for them, but that's because I'm pretty savvy with some of these things, so I've been able to help them. Like I said, I tutor maths. So if you do think your child might be struggling, you can always contact me, and obviously we can have that discussion and that information. But really, I would also say is if you're not sure of anything, the best thing you could ever do is ask.
Ask. Okay.
Even if it's just a question on the UK group or wherever you are, just ask. And one thing that people have been very good recently is sharing information. And most of those information will come free. So please do ask.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Shelley says, can you mention, let's see, can you mention bursaries and grants from various sources? Okay, all right. I'll try to put that on the screen soon. Also, Mrs. Babatunde says, just to add that Russell's group universities are great if your child gets into any of them. Yes, so Google what are Russell group universities. I don't know what
Yeah.
their name is, but anyway, whatever. They know better why they're called.
And there is one thing that I just thought I should mention as well, and that's just the mental well-being of our children. There is something about us as Nigerian African people as well. We're built, like trucks and trailers, but sometimes we forget that we have children, and not like that, because we think that because they don't say much, and some of these children, because I remember the counselor at my school when she was talking to some of these kids. They said, "Well, why didn't you tell your mom and dad? I don't want to bother them. I don't want to bother them." And they're having all this burden. And I remember one of my friends rang me one day, crying. And this is another family that had Japa to Canada, and the boy was 16 and killed himself. Now the thing
Oh
is,
no.
it's not that he was even being bullied. His issue was at home. A driver was taking him to school. He'll get home, clothes were ironed, and now he's in this where he has to be taking bus for himself and things like that. So little things might affect them. So just make sure that we're talking, we're keeping that dialogue going. You understand? If they're unhappy, just say to them, because I've seen one parent, these ones, they're not Nigerian, but the boy refused to come to school. And the mom said, well, when he said that, they said, we're going back to Spain in January. The mom said, well, today, now that your deputy said we're not going back. You understand? And the boy almost wanted to kill himself. And this is 2 years ago. So please, let's make sure we're having that dialogue with the children. Let's make sure that, we know how they're feeling so that we can support them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And not what is wrong. Oh yeah,
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
still not what is wrong with you. So let's stop saying what is wrong with you or what is not wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, children don't like that. And I think it's not even a good thing to say to people like, what is wrong with you. All right, thank you very much. And you mentioned Kuth.com.
Yeah. So that is to support well-being. It's
All right.
it's something that they've even got a counselor and it's free. Look, the thing is, I know some of us on this platform are Christians. It's not a Christian word, but I'm a Christian and it's tried and tested, and it's good. And there are other things as well. And sometimes some schools might have counselors or learning mentors. Somebody, I think it was Amy that wrote about the pastoral care system, just to make sure that they're engaging in that as well. All right.
Yes. Thank you very much. And Okay, Helen says for your information, the GCSEs in Scotland is different from other countries in
Yeah, Scottish nationals. Yeah.
the UK. All right, all right. Thank you very, 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 very much. I can't thank you enough. Well, I know, my God, but thank you for me. Thank you.
Good night.
We've just blessed lives. Have a good night. I won't take any. I won't take any time.
Good night.
Thank you for having
Have a
us. Good
good
night.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to meet you.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet
Bye.
you. Thank you. All right, so we've heard it all. Thank you very much for being here. And someone says, please mention all the university grants and all of, the grants and bursaries. Okay, so most UK universities offer their own bursaries and hardship funds. You have household income, care leaver status, disability ones, academic merit. So examples are University of Manchester, King's College, all of these ones, they all offer. So you need to actually make your research, search for them, Google, ask questions, go into the unis. That's why you have open evenings and open days, open weekends, whatever it is. Ask questions. They are available to, this one's NHS bursary for healthcare students are available as well for medicine, nursing, midwifery, dentistry, and all of that. It also includes tuition fee, maintenance allowance, travel, and practice placement expenses. So we need to ask. There are also some local councils or charitable bursaries that are available. There are scholarships and grants for migrants and refugee backgrounds that could be accessible as well. Make sure you're asking, Googling, searching, go to your council, ask them what are the scholarships available. They'll point you in the right direction. So that is all. So how to apply for student finance early, May, June, before uni starts. Submit household income details, HMRC checked. Apply directly to the university or through charity websites, and keep proof of your benefits, income, special status, and all of us. So thank you very much. We have come to the end of this. We have actually done more than 2 hours. This is the longest I've ever had, and that's why my battery was crying out. But thank you very much for all those of you who were online listening, and those who were writing comments. Thank you and thank you again. We hope you share this. We hope you let other people learn from what we have just all learned from. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to write them, and we'll send them to the right people who would help you with them. So our takeaways for today is know your child's educational stage and what's expected of them. Be proactive with your school admissions and catchment areas and all the parent consultations and asking questions. Understand, what's the normal what's normal back home might actually be a safeguarding issue here. So what is normal in Africa might actually be a safeguarding issue. So be careful and be warned. Stay involved and make a big difference in your child's success. One of the, all those times they put volunteers for different things, and make yourself available. It's not all about working. So it will help. Please don't forget to like. If we have helped you today with any information here, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and tell someone to tell someone. So if you've missed the live, make sure you catch up on the replay. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and keep thriving as a parent in the UK, because yes, you can do it. If others can, you can as well. So thank you very much for your time. And this is where I call it a night. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Have you subscribed and liked? Welcome to Dr. Bummy Able TV, where we inspire and inform you endlessly, with knowledge to guide, uplift, and grow. Thank you for joining, it's a journey, let's go. To all the new subscribers, welcome aboard. We're so glad you're here, there's so much in store. Returning friends, thank you once again. Together we'll learn and share the game. From wisdom to insight, each video's a gift. Help helping you rise, giving your spirit a lift. So hit that subscribe, stay tuned to see all the great things on Dr. Bummy Able TV. To all the new subscribers, welcome aboard. We're so glad you're here, there's so much in store. Returning friends, thank you once again. Together we'll learn and share the game. To all the new subscribers, welcome aboard. We're so glad you're here, there's so much in store. Returning friends, thank you once again. Together we'll learn and share the game.